Right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the RGM podcast with me, Carl Maloney. How are you doing? All right. We're here on YouTube and Apple and Spotify. Basically, what we do on this podcast is delve into the grassroots music industry. We have honest conversations with interesting people, and we introduce you to new people all the time. And today is no different. So today, mate, we've got an interesting guest for you today. We've got YOUSAF. Hi, mate.
Hello, Carl. Hello, you doing all right? Yeah.
Yeah, sound. Thanks, mate. Sound. Thanks, mate. You know, it's always fun getting up to speed with Zoom, innit? You know, technical stuff. But
What Carl's trying to say is that you're such rubbish at Zoom.
no, I'm not. No, no, no. Well, it's through RGM, I get to meet loads of new people, and what's really important to me is to share the stories of people that are trying to do their own little thing within this music industry. And thanks for joining us today, mate. Let's have a chat.
No worries, no worries. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, good lad, mate. So, yeah, for people that might not be aware of who you are and what you do, YOUSAF, introduce yourself. Let us know a little bit about you.
Right, so I'm a solo artist from Northwest. For the past 5, 6 years, I've been playing guitar in quite a lot of bands,
Yeah.
but quite recently, because I can't sing,
Okay.
I've taught myself how to MC, which is quite an interesting turn of events.
Yeah.
I've been rapping over grime, a bit of trap, and now what I've been doing is live looping and actually spitting over those beats. So while you have a certain demographic of musicians who are like, rappers don't do music, rappers aren't musicians, I'm like, yeah, but I'm playing guitar while rapping, so shut up.
All right. Oh, that's good. So, and whereabouts in the north? Did you say northwest?
Yeah, Northwest. So I'm from a town called Burnley. It's a bit up north from Manchester. So if you get a quick bus, it's like 10. No, I'm exaggerating there. It's half an hour on bus from Manchester, X43, and you're in a town called Burnley.
Uh,
Lovely little.
fully aware of Burnley. Burnley Football Club stole Sheffield United's best player the day before the transfer deadline and Sander Berger. I'm a Sheffield United fan, mate. I'm still a bit bitter about that transfer, to be honest.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear about that one.
I'm only joking.
Actually,
Are you a
I'm
football
not
fan
the
anyway?
enemy here because I'm not really that. I'm not that into footy.
Oh, are you?
So there'll be people I know though who will be like rinsing you for that. So like, it is what it is. There. Sorry to hear that happen with you.
Oh, no, it's all good. It's all good. So, what was Burnley like growing up as a young lad, just making his way into life? Talk us through what it was like politically around you and what you were like at school and that kind of stuff. Give us a bit of background on you.
I mean, at school, like, it was kind of standard, like everyone fight for themselves kind of energy.
Hmm.
If you weren't part of cool kids, you weren't really getting anywhere. So, being in that area, I was just like, right, how do I make myself interesting in such a small town? So, I taught myself how to play guitar. A lot of it was, I was playing bits of My Chemical Romance, Blackfield Brides, all like the alternative, like mosher sort of bands.
Right, okay.
And then I just obviously flipped the switch. In terms of like political landscape in my area, I won't sugarcoat it. It's not a very nice place in terms of like how people treat each other, and it does make me a bit sad. But that's what I rap my music about. I can kind of like put that out there in a form which might
Hmm.
not be too negative. You're actually making art out of it. So
Okay.
there's always that. I find a lot of power in that. It's pretty cool.
No, I can imagine. So, so in what way is it really difficult then, if you don't mind me asking?
I'll be straight up with you. It's like really racist round here.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's one of those, but like
So, what kind of area is it? Is it
it's it's just
not,
Burnley's.
not very multicultural?
No, it's multicultural, but
Hmm.
in the sense that the people who live around here don't really like get on with each other, and
Right.
it's a bit stressful. So that's why most of my operations are based in Manchester for that reason.
Right.
Because around here it's a bit more difficult when you're Asian, so like Manchester's more
Yeah.
accepting, if that makes sense. Like you don't get the same opportunities here because they don't want the brown guy on stage. Whereas Manchester, it's a lot more diverse. There's a lot more people like doing this sort of thing, and it's a better environment. So that's why I play there a lot more.
No, I can imagine that being difficult. You know, from a being a white person myself, I don't, you know, I don't fully appreciate and understand how difficult it is from different points of view. So it's interesting to hear different stories about that. As that gave you a bit of a impetus to say fuck you to these people type thing, you know, how has it manifested inside you to fight against all that bullshit?
I just kind of get on with it, if I'm honest with you. Like, that's kind of, but at the end of the day, you can't be in control of other people's like actions. And as frustrating as it can be, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to like boot a door down which is closed in your face, like, you go where you're welcome. And that's where I found the best solutions for myself.
Yeah.
And so far so good.
Yeah, no, it's always, there's always a fascinating journey, and you know, when things aren't as, when there's not a clear path for some people than what it is for what could appear to be other people. It must be really frustrating. Was it like that in school as well before you started to get into music, or is it just since you moved to the area, or what? Is it always been like that for you?
I think when it comes to school, it's kind of a. I think schools, everyone's a bit of a dick. I think that's just part of the course for being. Yeah, no, do you know what I mean? That's just kind of like standard. And I also think I don't think it's for me at least. I don't think it's worth holding on to like the
Yeah.
sort of stuff that used to go on at school. Like, don't get me wrong, it was like everyone's scrapping. Like, I'll acknowledge that any day.
Yeah.
But I think like real life is very different to school life, and it kind of hits you in the teeth like when you get to that point that it's a complete different dynamic.
Yeah. Was it more difficult to go into a creative industry being from where you're from then?
Um, I wouldn't say getting into it itself was difficult, if that makes sense. Like learning to play guitar and trying to like show off like, hey, look at me, I'm a musician now.
Yeah.
That in itself wasn't that much of a difficult task. I think it was just an opportunity thing because a lot of it's like there is racial preference in certain areas. So like to get those first gigs might be a bit harder, do you know what I mean? Whereas now I've kind of got out of that area in terms of like when I'm at where I actually play, it's on a bit more of a level playing field now.
Yeah.
I still notice differences, don't get me wrong. You probably see me rant about it on the internet now and then. But like it's not as bad, I don't think, at the moment.
Okay. What was your latest rant all about then, if people haven't seen it?
Which one? That's a good question.
No, well, just what seems to be the main theme of all the rants then.
um, Lack of.
Oh,
So at the moment, I was like, we've got a progressiveness in music which isn't real. I suppose that's the only way I can pinpoint it. So what we kind of have at the moment is people like, right, say there's a cause A, cause B, cause C. What people are kind of doing is attaching themselves to whatever cause it is, not because they care about the cause, but because it's a way that they can brand themselves and gain I suppose, the woke fans. That's the only way I can simplify it. But whenever it comes to anything like really serious, you'll notice that those artists are really quiet on them. So then it's almost like your management will let you do the bare minimum. It's like you can paint your fingernails and call Rishi Sunak a bellend, and then it's like, right, spot on, mate. You are a political artist. You've won. And it's like, that's really surface level. Do you understand what I mean? And that sort of stresses me out because I don't see it as honest. That's kind of where I get with that sort of thing.
yeah. Oh, that's interesting. And what do you class as a woke artist then?
Well, I don't. To be honest with you, I don't kind of me myself. I don't really believe in the whole woke artist. I believe every artist has their own messages that they want to get out there.
Yeah.
But I feel like calling yourself a woke artist in itself is a bit like self-indulgent. You should be a good person and a good writer because that's just who you are. It shouldn't be like shouldn't be a thing. That's the best way I can explain it.
Well, I can remember when woke, when it first came out as a word, it was kind of celebrated. Really, it was people trying to understand other people's feelings, and it was kind of it was kind of like it was a nice thing, but it's got a bit of a it doesn't mean the same to everybody now. Woke, it means people that are just like I don't know. They're just like out there with, and they're like just like it's like a new thing in it that I'm still trying to get my head around what it is because I don't fucking know. I'm 45, so it's more of for the younger people, the younger community out there that have really embraced what they think woke is. For me personally, if I'm honest about it, I think every so often in life these different things come up, don't they? And it just takes a while for it all to calm down and for it to fully be fully understood and for people to appreciate it. When you ram anything down anybody's throat, people are going to be like, oh, "Fuck off! I can't be asked with that." Um, you know what I mean? When you're in the real world and that kind of stuff, and it's difficult to talk about without like trying to offend anybody, and that's the least thing we want to do. We just want to have open conversations about these things. But where as a bloke of a certain age, if somebody's trying to ram I don't know, like pronouns down somebody's neck and say, I'm not going to reply to somebody if they don't use the right pronouns, then okay, I'll call you whatever you want, mate. I'm not that bothered, but it's your fight, not mine. That one, I'll call you whatever you want. Just it's different for the older generation to understand how important the younger generation feel about these type of things as well. I think.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like a lot of these arguments that they bring to the table are definitely things that we should take serious because, like, every generation, I suppose, has its fight of like things that they're
Yeah,
trying to like overcome, and
yeah,
that just happens to be one of the main talking points of the last, definitely of the last decade. I've noticed.
yeah.
Now, it's not a table I sit at, so it's not something I understand. It's
Yeah.
like similar to you. But I do also
Oh,
acknowledge that there's
I don't understand it at all, mate. I don't want that to come across. I'm still trying to get my head round it all and how it fits in society and how to not be a bell end with it. You know what I mean?
honestly,
I just don't. I don't. It's just going to take me a little bit longer than probably other people to get my head around it. Is just being
yeah,
honest about it. Yeah.
no, which is fair enough. Like I think that's the best answer most people can give on that sort of stuff. I don't feel it sounds like a strange thing to say. I don't feel like everyone has to be understanding. I
Mm.
feel like everyone has to just not be shit to people that are different. Like for it's like
Yeah.
what you mentioning the pronoun thing. I'm not like that, but I also understand that people feel like that.
Yeah.
So me myself, I'm not going to turn around and like demand that people use binary language in the sense that I would.
Yeah.
And if they come and they want to be referred to by those pronouns, I'm going to refer to them by those pronouns because it's
Yeah.
what they want, and it's something that adds respect in themselves. So it's like, yeah, I'll do that. I'll follow up if they're not harming anyone else. You know what I mean? That's why I always get a bit weirded out by the whole J.K. Rowling stuff and the turf stuff because
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, simply put, in the nicest way possible, I don't understand why someone on the outside of that would care about it as much as
Yeah.
it's almost like they care more than the people that it actually affects. And
Yeah.
that's what always like weirds me out. It's like, why are you bothered? Like, make more, but actually, no, don't make more. But just have J.K. Rowling fucking terrible.
No, I agree with you. Just stick to your own lane sometimes. And well, I don't know. I don't agree with what I've just said there. Really, stick to your own lanes. You've got to put
Get in
yourself.
your own lane.
Yeah, that's not the right thing to say either. You've got to get yourself out your comfort zone to understand different communities and different opinion on things, and then by doing that, generally, you should have a better opinion on being nice to people when you understand more different
100%.
points of view. Surely.
100%. And all that we spoke about there is like, I'm fully of the view of being sound to people.
Mm.
I think the reason I'm saying that I don't kind of want the whole walk thing I was on about before to be misinterpreted as like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't like people who are socially active. It's not in the sense that I feel that socially active things are negative or a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's just I understand how whether it be bands, artists, even businesses,
Yeah.
hijack certain movements for gain to make effectively use other people's suffering to make them seem like they are good people, and then you effectively give those people money. And that's kind of what's been stressing me out because there's been situations in my life. So a few years ago, there was, I won't go overly specific about it because I don't
Yeah.
want to throw shade, you know what I mean? But there was a situation where there was a group of people doing events in my area.
Hmm.
Now, the events themselves were run on the basis of like, oh, it's anti-racism. We want to help black and brown people in the industry and all this sort of thing. And I'm like, you know what? I can get behind that. That's a really cool thing. But what I realized that they were doing is they were using like our problems as a way to like platform themselves. So, for example, say I'd get invited to play one of these anti-racist events,
Yeah.
I'd be the very first artist on a bill full of non-minorities.
Right.
And those said non-minorities were all the promoters' friends.
Right.
And in terms of the funds, so say, for example, it's 20 quid at the door. I'm not saying that's how much you were, but just for random
Yeah.
example. So say you're paying money at the door. We was under the assumption that it was going to charities, medical aid for Palestine, all this sort of thing. There were no like paper trail of like where that money were going. And it were kind of like, well, what are you using this money for? If none of us are getting paid and it's like supposedly for charity.
Yeah.
And I kind of see that as an example when a cause is being used by people who want to make themselves look good and even profit off that cause without much respect being given to the people that like are suffering. Make sense?
Oh yeah, it's pure virtue signaling, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm getting at, and that's what better old Yusuf gets a problem with sometimes. But yeah,
Well, keep the
yeah.
fight going, mate. You know, I can see just by having a chat with you, you're passionate about what you do and that kind of stuff. So, how old were you when you first picked up a guitar? Then,
When I first picked up a guitar, I
Mm.
was 16, I think, 16, 17. It was mid-teens anyway. I was starting on the Mark M train, like playing Na 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 Na. Bit of Paramore as well, actually. Yeah, I started on the alt scene when it came to music, uh, mid-teens. Quite fun. The rapping came much later.
So, were you in like? Did you mention you were in like bands and stuff before you went started doing MCing and your loop stuff?
Yeah, so I was in quite a lot of alternative bands. So like, I was in a couple. My first ever band was terrible. Like everyone's first band.
What was
I
the
forget
name?
what it
What was the
was.
band name?
No, we ain't got actually.
Come on, come on, Yusuf.
It was called Hazelard Ravens.
Oh, nice. Okay, right. Okay,
Shortened to her
okay. Fair enough. Fair enough.
because as a teenager, I fancied someone with brown eyes.
Oh, right.
Just
Yeah.
yeah, it's a bit wet. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, everybody's is, so that is fine, mate. It's fine. Just own it.
Yeah,
Own it.
it was a wet move on my behalf, but it was done.
Yeah,
We had a song called Fly Away, which was recorded on a laptop. It was just like,
yeah,
oh man, cringe. But it was fun, like, because if I didn't go through that and if I didn't do it, I wouldn't have got to what I'm doing now. I
yeah.
think I had to be, I think you've got to be in a couple of shit bands before you realize what your direction is musically. And
What?
it's those like experiences where you're playing at a random pub, there's four people there, um, you suck, that kind of like build your foundation. You need those foundational moments before you move past it. You shouldn't skip the line. It's okay to suck at first, effectively, is what I'm
Yeah. Of
saying.
course it is. Nobody's great when you first start off. I always say it. Sorry, I lost train of thought there. So, was it with school friends then, or people from your area, the other people in the band? How did you create like a band around you?
So the band, it came at college actually. So I used to do a
All right.
music course in Burnley.
Hmm.
Again, this is when I hadn't really fully developed my skills. There was a girl that went to the college that like I'd seen about, and I could tell that they could sing. And I'm like, "Hey, do you want to form a band?" They weren't even like, what's the word? They weren't even a hazing process or like actually getting to know me. It's just like, you do music, I do music, let's do bands. And we just started recording songs on a laptop, and we just went with it. We ended up getting we played on a radio station actually. I've just realised that we played on Halifax Radio, Phoenix FM.
Oh,
and we played like Nirvana covers, which was strange because we had our own songs. We just said like, you know what, let's go on the radio and play Polly Wants a Cracker for
okay.
whatever reason.
All right, fair enough. Random.
Yeah, it was quite strange, but it was fun. It was fun.
Yeah. And like, so the first band, then how did you decide that this is not going to be my path in life? I need something different. Because the breaking up of a band and starting new ones,
Oh,
that's an interesting journey just in itself. Talk us through how
it
you.
was it was a lot of trauma and heartbreak, and I was very, very sad about the whole situation. What happened is we eventually got a drummer on board,
Yeah.
and it was a pretty good drummer to be fair. But then when he left, um, one of our members were kind of just like, "Oh, I know a guy who knows the guy who plays drum." We had one band practice with the guy, and it was very evident that he weren't a musical person, which is fine because we weren't that musical either. But like, I feel that when it's the drums in particular,
Yeah.
that is a very important element. And if your drummer can't drum, any gig you play is going to be
Yeah.
a shit show. So I said to the person who got this person involved, I was like, "Do we want to continue doing this?" And he's like, "No, I want this drummer. They're my friend." And I'm like,
Yeah. That's bad.
"Well, yeah, they might be a friend, but they're shit."
Yeah.
So I kind of left on those terms because I realized if we keep going in this direction, we're not going to expand musically. So I just, after that, what ended up happening is I joined a couple of different bands. I formed like an emo band that lasted for a year. Then
What was the
I
emo
started
band
playing
called? What was the emo band called?
Exit Berlin.
Okay. A little bit better.
Yeah,
Not quite there yet with your name, but it's getting better.
yeah, but, you can admit it's a shit name.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I'll take it on chin. That was a rubbish name. We played a couple of gigs around the northwest. That one actually did okay, to be fair, but we didn't get to the stage of recording. A lot of that was internal issues, like we'd pick the wrong people.
Yeah.
Similar sort of thing happened when I was playing bass for a folk band, which that was all right, but I think the terms of the band were misinterpreted on both sides. We were kind of under the impression that we was all a band, whereas the longer down the line we got, we realised that we was effectively session artists that weren't getting paid. If that sort of
Right. Got it.
makes sense. So when I realised that, I'm like, well, I ain't doing this. I'm effectively building someone else's career.
Yeah.
But after all those missteps, you kind of realise it's like, right, if you are going to be in a band, it has to be one that really makes sense.
Mm.
And I'm not completely against being in a band now. Like I kind of still want to be, but I wouldn't just jump into it because I've kind of understood bands themselves depend on who's in the band with you, and if everyone isn't on the same page, it's destined to fail because you don't have a healthy foundation.
Yeah.
So that's what eventually like pushed me into going solo. The whole solo thing was kind of just like a temporary thing initially. I'm like, oh, I'll be solo.
Yeah.
And the more I did it, I realized, hang on, actually, I like doing this and I can actually get somewhere with it. So then I stuck at it, and I've got further being a solo artist than I ever have been in a band. So it's kind of cool, but I also still miss playing live with other people as well.
Yeah, there is a community around a band, and it can be quite like an isolating place if you're just on your own as well, can't it? Because when we have gigs on and there's somebody on their own and they've had a long drive to get to the gig and that kind of stuff, and then they're driving back for hours after on their own, if they're out and about, or even if it's just a local thing, it's a different experience in it. You are on your own. All the decisions are yours. Everything's on you. But sometimes people like that because you're in control of things, and you don't have to get five people in the same place to rehearse or to a gig, and those five people don't have extra problems that you can't that aren't your problems, but they are in a way.
Well, I add into that point the fact that the majority of musicians are in full time work.
Yeah,
So imagine you've got 3 to 5 full time workers with different schedules, different lives. You
yeah,
have to get them in a room together, get them to write music together.
yeah,
And you've also got to have some form of direction when it comes to the marketing and like building the
mhm,
brand itself.
yeah,
That is, when you put it in perspective, that's hard. So I've got a lot of bands that are still going even when like
mm,
they're full-time adults. Like you'll see a lot of teenage bands and they proper like smashing it, and it's like, yeah, but none of you are working, which is fine.
yeah,
But when you're working, it's completely different. Like it's so many different dynamics. So that's definitely one of the But the pros, yeah, like you were saying, I feel like there is definitely a community aspect to it. Especially like if you've done a gig, like you can sit in the green room, have a natter with each other, and like even give each other feedback on how we've all played. It's like, hey, do you reckon you smashed it tonight? There's that element that's missing when you solo. It's definitely isolating. I think the best way to put it: more freedom, more control,
Yeah.
less community.
Yeah. Okay. So it's a bit of a trade off in it, I suppose. And do you feel like you're more productive now? You're getting more shit done now you're on your own?
Yeah, yeah. This year, not so much purely because of how busy I've been, but like overall, like I feel like I can do a lot more as a solo artist than I did in bands because obviously you've got the back and forth between bands. Like someone's trying to make a rock song, the other one's trying to make a jazz fusion song or something like that. When you're on your own, you can focus more. But the negative side to that is if you're not fully on it, there's no one to motivate you but yourself. So you have to keep yourself motivated. No one's gonna like give you that poke in the back to push you forward. You've got to do that for yourself.
True.
So there's a trade off in that as well.
And it is hard, I work full time and I do RGM stuff. I know, how many hours there are in a day sometimes, and it's tough, but it's not really work, this, is it, music? Is it?
No, it's not. That's the thing. It's not, and I think that's the actually you've got to have. If you're doing it, even the event management side, because I've dipped my toes in that pond. I know how it is on Sly.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you do it out of passion. You 100% do it out of passion because like the trade off in terms of financial gain out of it isn't
No.
what people would think it is.
Yeah.
Even at like the grander levels, there's artists out there who have like on radio all the time. They're playing festivals.
Mm.
They don't have as much dosh as you think. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. And we on a previous episode, we had Neil Hargreaves on from Aggressive Management, and he was saying, you'll see some of these big touring bands, but some of them have still got a bar job or something just to keep the bills paid and to pay the rent and that kind of stuff. They're still out there. So even people you think have made it, they haven't yet. There's touring costs, merch, all the taxes that you get on merch in some venues and all this kind of stuff. There's a lot.
Yeah, merch. I forget about that.
Yeah, there's all that kind of stuff. I'm fascinated with the event side of it. So running gigs myself. Oh, one thing that Neil said on this podcast as well was, if a band is not feeling like it's getting the opportunity that it needs, learn about what it's like as a promoter and learn that part of the industry yourself, and you'll get a better you'll get a better appreciation of how much work goes into a gig, even if you're not paid or whatever, or whatever the deal may be for tickets, the ticket split, all that kind of stuff. You'll have a better appreciation of why that's not the case sometimes, and why promoters sometimes can't pay if the sales aren't good enough or whatever. And I know this too well from putting on gigs that venues are more expensive these days post COVID. Everybody's put the prices up.
Yeah.
As a result of that, you've got to put your tickets prices up a little bit. That makes it more difficult for the average person to come to the gig because every fucker's skin. It all has a knock-on effects on everybody, and it just makes putting on an event with all the best intentions ever to pay everybody, as much as possible. Sometimes it's just not possible. Talk me through your journey of going into event management yourself and setting up gigs.
Event management, funny enough, actually, it's actually because of what you explained, the opportunities thing. So like when it came to like me trying to get involved in Manchester, I'm realizing like, right, hang on, no one's just gonna give me like here's a gig, sir, here's a gig on the silver platter. You've got to put the work in yourself. So what I started doing is going at it DIY. So what that would mean is exactly what you're on about, putting on my own shows, booking myself within reason. I'm never going to put myself as a headline because that's narcissistic as hell. But like put me on show, get a couple of mates on, and like just run it as if I was the promoter of that gig. And it's an eye opener because like you say yourself, a lot of people give, let's be honest, like abuse to promoters as well. Like, oh, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. And it's like the costs involved in running these events because the venue hire is quite expensive sometimes. Yeah. And if you get it on a day which is free, there's usually a reason that the venue's free on that day.
Yeah, Monday or Tuesday when nobody's out anyway.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, hey, you can have it for free today because we want you to try and drag people to the venue because it's dead today. So you're already on an uphill battle on that. But it's been interesting because you get to meet a lot of people when you do event management, and you get to see a newer side to it and like be cool with a lot of the scene. I'll tell you what, one thing, the musicians are nice. So there's that benefit as well.
Say that again for me. The Zoom just dropped a bit. Musicians are like,
Um, Musicians are nicer to you when they realize you're a promoter.
okay.
Like, there's a lot of privilege there. The black, oh, I don't like Yusuf, you shit at guitar or whatever. And then it's like, oh, he's a promoter. Hi, Yusuf. Oh, hi. Do you want to check out our song? Complete different dynamic when they realize you're a promoter.
Some are, some aren't though. Some are annoyed with you because you haven't sold out the venue and they're on first and there's 15 people in, sometimes 5 people in, and they're annoyed. They're annoyed with me for not selling tickets to go and see their band. There's that
Yeah,
side.
but it doesn't work that way. No one goes, oh, I am going to watch the promoter,
Yeah,
watch that promoter stand on stage.
yeah,
It's if people want to see the artist or not.
yeah,
I had it a few years ago. I booked an event with some friends,
yeah.
and myself and my friend were playing, and we booked someone and like, right, these guys seem like they're big, and this is something you'll probably pick up on doing it as well. Like they had thousands of streams. Put them as a headline. Me and my people showed up to watch me and my friends. After me and my friend had finished, half the crowd left, and they were just stood there on stage like for 4 people left, and it was like, oh. But the reason that happened is because they'd fake they following, if that makes sense. So you can,
Yeah.
it's a whole industry. It's really corrupt, but people like can pay for streams on Spotify and all this sort of thing. And to the untrained eye, it can seem legitimate. And I bought into it at first. Now I know what to look out for. If they've got loads of streams in Helsinki or something, it's like, well, right. I don't know how someone from Manchester's got about 100 listeners in Helsinki, 20 of them in India. It's like, nah, mate, you're chatting.
Yeah, you've got good instinct there. I never book a band on streams. It don't make any difference to me. It don't mean the people are going to come to your gig and you no idea where those streams are from. I tend to, if it's a new band, I'll put them on first at a gig. And if I see they make an effort with promotion and trying to get people in, even if they don't get many people in, I'll book them again further up. And you know, I trust them. I trust them to that they're going to advertise the gig. These fuckers that complain about everything, that they're on first and nobody turned up to see them when they haven't promoted the gig themselves. There's a lot of that about, which is frustrating.
Yeah, and they should be promoting it to their listeners as well.
Yeah.
Because like they won't have many. Well, some of them might have a lot, but if they're on first, more often than not, they don't have like the biggest listener base. But at least bring your fan base down to this instead of like going, I want the bigger bands to supply me an audience. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, too right. Too right. So has that put you in good stead now as a soloist yourself? You know, how was running gigs? Has it given you confidence to? It's a great networking thing, isn't it? So you do meet more people, you do get more opportunities, and that opens more doors. I'm speaking from my side of it. How is it on your side?
My side of it is just giving me a more rational view, if that makes sense. So like being able to be involved in that while being an artist, I kind of sit at both sides of the table, and whenever I see discourse online of people kicking off about promoters, I'll take a step back and like, right, if I were promoting it, how would I do this? And when I think into it, some of the bands that are kicking off are being drama queens, but some of them have got valid concerns as well. Some of them do have valid concerns, which is fair enough, but not all of the time.
Yeah.
So it's put me in a middle ground where I'm more appreciative of what people like yourself do,
Yeah.
and I can like maybe perhaps reason with artists that are like making things that aren't that bad seem a lot worse than they are in terms of promotion.
Oh, again.
So
You're out there in the world doing your solo stuff then now, mate. So tell us all about what you're doing now. So introduce your music to the RGM people.
okay. So in terms of genre, if you guys are looking for consistency, it's not going to happen. So like most of my music that's out in the universe, it's been live loops. So I'm making like the music itself. It's not like me nicking a beat off YouTube and spitting over it. Making a live loop, I'll speak my truth on whatever matter it is. It's really nice. I've got a song called Eager Revival. It's got a bit of a reggae feel to it. Song called Time Machine, which is really like got a bit of an old school sound. So the genre's a bit everywhere. In terms of what I've got coming, so on the 14th of November, you might be listening to this after the 14th of November, so if you are, fair dues. We've got a song coming out called Fiend.
Yeah.
Now, this was an interesting experience because I didn't plan to write it the way it came out. So I wrote this song in Blackburn at a place called Esh House, which is a studio which was run by a band called Ugly Club, a band that you've actually interviewed on this podcast at
Old
some
Nova
point.
Story, the Nova Story people.
Yeah, when they was on under their old alias, I actually listened to that. They were really,
Amazing,
really cool.
people.
Genuinely, they're amazing.
They're fantastic.
Fantastic, honestly, fantastic people. The biggest help to me ever, because instead of like trying to enforce a way of working on me, they just like let me like let loose a little bit.
Yeah.
I went to and it just like, oh, I want to record a TikTok, but I want the TikTok to sound a bit professional, and it was like, okay, but sorry, a bit of a cough there. What was I going to say? Oh, TikTok, yeah. So we're going to record something simple, and while I was there, like, hang on a minute, this could actually be a song. It's like, oh, I'm not close-minded. I don't mind what's on the song. We could have some drums on it. It's like, yeah, we can have some drums on it. And it's like, oh, I might put some guitar. Yeah, we can have guitar. And then, like, as we're going through it, what was initially meant to just be like a 45-second video turned out to be an entire metal rap song, which, yeah, the song that's coming out is a metal rap.
Nice.
A bit different to what's out in the universe at the moment. But
how did Imogen and Ducky, how did they produce you then? How did they work with you? What were they like to work with? Because I've met them once really briefly at Tramlines a couple of years ago, and they're just, you know, lovely people, obviously. But I've mainly spoke to, and we've covered them on RGM and stuff. And Imogen's just one of the funniest person I've ever met in my life or seen online. I just think she's fantastic. What would she like to work with?
really kind on one. Like she gives you a lot of space. Not space is like, oh, she runs around with you, runs away from you. Jesus Christ, what wrong word in there. The reason I'm this tired is because I went to see Creeper last night, which was
okay.
sick.
Nice.
Yeah, she gives you a lot of space in the studio in terms of like letting you be the creative that you want to be. She's always very good with feedback as well. So I feel like in some studio settings, they might be too polite to you because like they want to be professional. But Imo, the energy I get from Imo is that if something sounds shit, they'll just say straight up, that bit shit, we need to change that. Right. But I kind of respect that because it keeps things moving forward. Like Imogen is one of the nicest people I've worked with in terms of music, straight up. Same with Ducky. Like, yeah, good people. Like, they gave me a lot of space. And we turned out with that song, so yeah, I'm buzzing about it.
Well, they're finding their own way in the music industry, and they've built. I know they've had some problems with the studio and that kind of stuff, and I hope it all sorts itself out for them. And I need to get them on the podcast and have a new updated chat with them soon. But they've created and October Drift have done a similar kind of thing where they've basically created a business around the band. So they've created a studio, and the studio, they get people in that pay for recordings and that kind of stuff, and that helps them fund the studio, their own little business, and then they can put some money into the band as well, get cracking with that. So it's another way to diversify, to make it, I don't know, just to try and get somewhere in this fucking music industry. It's hard work, isn't it?
It is hard work, but I know what you mean. I do think they did something really beautiful for the community and like found a way to like cross over their personal project with like a professional one. Even though the club, let's be honest, they are quite professional, aren't they?
Yeah.
But it was a good way that they did it, and I hope that Esh House comes back as well. I know they've got the GoFundMe running and like they've written quite a bit of funds. Last I heard, this might be wrong, so this is just me remembering.
Yeah.
But last I heard, I believe they was in the process of rebuilding the studio. And if that is the case, I wish them no but best with that, because purely for selfish reasons, so I can record more music with them because I like working with them.
Yeah, nice. No, I love that. I love that. So, you know, if within the description of this podcast, there'll be a link to your music, mate. So if somebody's hovering over that link at the minute, and they've not clicked it yet to check out your tunes, what would you say to those people, YOUSAF?
Beware.
Okay.
I genuinely hope whoever clicks that link has like the best time. I think you'll enjoy the song.
Yeah.
The song that's coming out is very different to what I put out before. So if you're a fan of my old stuff, it's a bit of a step up. But I'm proud of it. I think a lot of work went into it, and it's very true to form of what I can actually make. If you like it, a lot more music like that's coming soon. I'm going to be a bit heavier with my sound, so stick around if you're into that sort of thing.
Nice one, mate. Well, Yusuf, I've really enjoyed having a chat with you today and getting to know you, mate. And I know the Argent people will as well. So keep going, mate. I know it's a long road. We're all on it in his own little way, aren't we? You're never on your own though. If you need anything, you know where we are, and we're going to be supporting you on RGM as much as we can as well, mate. Nice one. Thanks for joining us today.
Appreciate that, Carl.
Cheers, pal.